charism is the new evangelization. Father John is originally from Buffalo, New York, and has a degree in industrial engineering from Ohio University. He has a great love for Our Lady, as he attributes his conversion and priestly vocation to her motherly intercession. He has studied in the Mariology program at the International Marian Research Institute in Dayton, Ohio. He is currently ministering as chaplain at Wayne State University in downtown Detroit, as well as hosting 2 radio programs each week on Radio Maria. And that's Radio Maria USA. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Father John Fletcher.
One of the issues of being tall is most podium microphones are too short for me. And I don't have the loudest voice in the world, but if I talk like this, are you able to hear me okay? Yeah. You're good to go? Excellent. No, I think they seem to indicate that they can hear me okay, good. So I'm so glad to be able to be with you this afternoon, to share with you some things about our Blessed Mother Mary. And before we get into our talk, I see that there's still a few empty seats here. I think people have taken a quick break and are on their way back. So I'll delay for just a few minutes as we wait for everyone to kind of come back. So why am I here? Why am I talking about Our Lady? Well, because of who she is to me. She is the one that I attribute to coming after me and finding me and turning me around and putting me back on the right path. Because I grew up most of my life without any interest whatsoever in my Catholic faith. And it was on when I made a pilgrimage to a wonderful shrine just outside of Denver, Colorado, called the Mother Cabrini Shrine. And Father Matthew knows of this, he's been there himself. And it's a really beautiful place. I was there on pilgrimage, and it was March 25th, 1994, when our Blessed Mother had been asking everyone in the world at this time to consecrate themselves to her Immaculate Heart. And through many crazy circumstances, I found myself at this shrine on that day making my consecration to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And afterwards, after I had made my consecration to Our Lady, I received this incredible grace. I can remember feeling in the center of my heart, there was this sensation. It was like there was a little tiny ball of light or heat right there in the middle of my heart. And as I became aware of it, it started to grow. And it started to fill my whole body from the top of my head right to the very bottom of my feet. And what that sensation was this all-consuming love for our Lord and for Our Lady. And I kind of remember feeling like I was some kind of a knight in the service of the most noble king and queen who had ever existed. And I thought in my zeal, there's nothing I wouldn't do for our Lord and for Our Lady. And as soon as I had that thought, I thought, oh, they'll probably want me to do something someday and I won't want to do it. So from that day forward, my life had completely changed. It was Our Lady who came up to me from behind and gently put her hand on my shoulder and turned me around. And she said, John, you want to be going this way. And she's pointing to her son. And it was as if I wasn't even walking anymore, but somehow Our Lady had kind of scooped me up in her arms, and she herself was bringing me now to Jesus, her divine Son. And this is what Our Lady is all about. She brings us to Christ. And if she doesn't, then we need to avoid her. But all authentic Marian devotion is Christocentric. That means it is Christ-centered. And every time we come to Mary, she brings us closer to her Son. And as I said, if she didn't, then she would need to be avoided. So that's a little bit of a background about how I came to be such a great fan of our Blessed Mother. Our Holy Father, Pope Francis, was at the United Nations recently, and his talk there, the conference, the meeting, it went late, and he was going to be, he might miss his flight. So as he comes out of the United Nations and gets into his limo, he tells the driver that he's really late and he needs to get to the airport because he might miss his flight. And so he asks the driver to really step on it. So the driver starts driving, but he's not going fast enough, so the Pope says, "I'm really late, you have to go faster." So he goes a little bit faster, and the Pope says again, "You got to go faster, I'm going to miss my flight." So the driver goes a little bit faster again. And then the Pope finally says, "Look, stop the car, I'm going to drive." So they get out and they switch places. And the Pope is just flooring it down the highway. He's really ripping it up. And sooner or later, he gets pulled over. And the policeman comes out of his car and he walks up to the window, and the Pope rolls down the window and he says, "Can I see your license and registration?" And now the policeman doesn't know what to do, so he goes back to his car and he calls the chief on the radio and he says, "Chief, I just pulled over a VIP and I don't know really what to do with this." And the chief says, "Well, who is it, the mayor?" No, bigger than the mayor." "Who is it, the governor?" "No, bigger than the governor." "Who is it, the President of the United States?" "No, bigger than the President of the..." "Well, who is bigger than the President of the United States?" And the policeman says, "I don't know, but he has the Pope as a chauffeur." Earlier, before lunch started, Mother Mary Bernadette was talking about the story of how this statue came to be the one that we used in our procession. And as she was talking about the statue, I remember hearing somebody recently tell a little story about a Protestant. There was a Protestant in a church tour somewhere in Europe, and the tour guide was bringing them through the church, and they came up to this beautiful statue of Fatima. So there was Our Lady depicted in the statue, and also depicted in the statue were the three children on their knees praying to Our Lady. And the Protestant said, "See, even you can tell this is Catholic because even the statues are praying to statues." So sometimes I wonder, what must it look like to a Protestant to walk into a Catholic church and see that kind of thing? Now, as Catholics, we know that Mary's not God. And we know that this statue is just an inanimate object that has nothing supernatural about it whatsoever. We know that Mary's not God. We know that we aren't worshiping her. But we also know that we love her. And this is the next best thing to having Our Lady here in front of us. We see this statue as an image that represents the Blessed Virgin Mary.